So summer is coming to an end along here on 38. We just wrapped up Q2. This is my buddy and friend, Alex Curry. He's the Director of Business Development for 360 Blue. And one of my favorite things about 360 Blue is just the transparency when it comes down to data. You know, there's a lot of cool emails that Alex sends out to all his realtors that go over all the different metrics that he's seeing. We just wrapped up Q2. Let's talk about some of the consecutive quarters that we've seen in the past and kind of relate it to where we are now.
Thanks, Noah. It's an honor to be here. So yeah, as far as what we've been seeing in the market, for Q1 and Q2, compared to Q1, Q2 of last year, unfortunately, it's still a challenging market. We are down in average daily rates and RevPAR. However, we are outperforming ourselves compared to Q1, Q2 of last year in occupancy. We're up in occupancy by 2%. I think that is a huge win in this market today. Big reason for that is our assessment of data and identifying traveler trends and knowing what travelers want, right, that travel to this area. And we lifted our minimum length of stay before anyone else. And I think that has paid huge dividends to our homeowners, our guests, and us as well. And also we're outperforming the market in every metric compared to everyone else. So very pleased to see that. But yes, it is a softer market for sure.
What neighborhoods or communities do you think remain pretty consistent as we've seen a little bit of a decline?
Sure, great question. So some of our strongest performing communities we look at through the lens of RevPAR, right, which balances occupancy with average daily rate. So you're commanding the highest nightly rate possible while minimizing wear and tear of use of the property and surrounding community. And the top three performing communities are Rosemary Beach, Watercolor, and Grayton Beach, which kind of surprised me with Grayton Beach. But I think a big reason for that is the concentration of inventory south of 30A in Grayton Beach. When you look at that relative to other communities, that makes it pretty unique.
I think it comes down to popularity at the end of the day too.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing that we've seen over the last couple of years, especially when it comes down to 38 specifically, is that we have top 10 beaches now. You know,
yes.
Southern Living is making articles about the 38 area.
Oh yeah.
And so we have the popularity. When people think of 38, think of Watercolor, think of Rosemary Beach. What are you seeing in comparison between 38 and like Destin and Panama City Beach?
Sure. One thing I've noticed, which I think is a huge factor in the health of the short-term rental market to this area, is supply of vacation rentals that have entered the space over the years. It's very important to look back at 2019 because that really was our last benchmark year before we had our moment of unprecedented demand and revenue to this area during 2021, 2022, right? And then we entered this state of decline for the past 8 quarters. So looking at the increase of supply, year over year for this entire area, there's a 36% increase from 2019 to 2023 when I average it out. Yeah, it's pretty substantial. Most substantial increase was 30A at 49%, unfortunately. But something I did notice that's very interesting to me is this year is in fact the first year I've seen a slight decrease in the supply of vacation rentals to enter the space. So that to me is a good indicator. We peaked last year in terms of supply. And yeah, while supply for the most part is still outstripping demand, this could be an indicator of better days ahead and better balance between supply and demand. Back to your question as far as which communities stood out to me, Destin actually had the least dramatic increase, right around 30%, and a decrease of right around 7%, which is pretty substantial. Panama City kind of falls right in between that area, so these could be great places to hone in on. So. As far as where to guide your clients and communities, I think Destin's a great spot. I think Panama City's a great spot. We still have a bullish sentiment on 30A as well. I mean, if you look at average daily rates and RevPAR relative to 2019 for 30A, we're still up significantly. And if this trend continues, while it's not earth-shattering that there was a 2% increase, or decrease, excuse me, it's the first time we've seen it since 2019. And if that continues, I think it stands to reason that we could stabilize on 30A and maybe see some healthy growth down the line. Not these crazy increases we saw during the COVID years, but maybe it's 2-3%, something of that sort down the line.
Yeah, one thing I'd love to talk about is the trend of what consumers are wanting. In the real estate market, I've noticed a lot of not only do we want an investment property,
Mm-hmm.
but when we're not renting it out, we want to enjoy it personally. I
Sure.
feel like during the pandemic, there was an Airbnb high.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted an Airbnb.
Oh yeah.
Everybody wanted to go through the rental management process and do all that stuff, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But then you saw that huge supply increase that we see along 30A.
Yes.
So as people transition into more of like a second home nature with investment properties,
Mm-hmm.
are there key metrics that you can determine which weeks are obviously better? Like when should a consumer come down and enjoy the property themselves?
Absolutely. Summer is for sure your prime time to not come down and stay in the property. That's where you're going to see the majority of your revenue. Spring break is kind of hit or miss. It's not as strong as it was in previous years. But you know, I still think it's a strong performer. You got spring break, you have summer, and then you have a few weeks in October that are deemed fall break that still perform very well. But outside of those periods, you know, I think those are good times to come down. You know, you still have a bit of a strong shoulder season in May leading up to summer. May's becoming a more popular month for us. So I guess answering your question more specifically, probably like late April is a good pocket. You know, mid-August through September is a great time to come down as a homeowner and use your home. So you're still going to see the majority of your revenue in summer, spring break, fall break. Yeah.
In terms of when people are looking for a property, obviously we have a lot of people that want rental history or projections.
Of course.
What are your thoughts on projections and kind of how should we measure that as a consumer?
Yeah.
See, I think we just get papers in front of us that say X to X, but how on the background things, how are people going through that process of measuring that out?
It's an excellent question. So we look at data in real time, right? We look at the strength of comparable properties relative to the home we're projecting, and how are those comps performing right now? Not what did they earn last year only. If you look at it only through that view, I think you're doing a disservice to you, your clients, because there's a good chance the data is not accurate anymore, given the tailwinds, right? And also given that we've seen a steady decline in a lot of metrics leading to this year. So it's very important to look at it in real time. And by that, I mean, how are the comps performing this year? What did they average out over summer per week? You know, that's very important to understand. Do they have any bookings for next year for summer? What do those bookings look like, those dollar amounts? So what I mean by real time, we're looking at it right now, and we're also looking at what lies ahead of it in terms of actuals, if we have those. And that's going to give you a more accurate rental projection. You go where the data takes you.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
In terms of, I know we talked about it before we started hit record, what key metrics or what can people look at when they're evaluating different rental properties that would help them stand out on the rental market?
Yeah, so, you know, I think in previous years there was this logic of, you know, more bedrooms will equal more revenue. And I think that still holds true to a certain degree, but not always.
Right.
You know, we've seen that your larger bedroom homes south of 30A tend to perform better, or if they're north of 30A, at least very close and close to beach access, that's certainly going to yield more. But let's say it's in a community like Watercolor, which is a great performing community. It doesn't always hold true that if it's a 6-bedroom, it's always going to yield more than a 5-bedroom. In some cases, we've seen 5 bedrooms do better. So a lot of it depends on the aesthetic of the home, the amenities it offers. You know, those are very important things to consider. Location as well. Projections are such a nuanced thing.
Right.
So those are all very important factors to consider. As far as a sweet spot, you know, I think 5 bedrooms is a great sweet spot. You know, especially if you're north of 30A. You know, if you're south of 30A, yeah, I think more bedrooms tend to yield, you know, more revenue, right, especially in proximity to beach access.
And obviously it doesn't hurt if you can look out and see the water of any kind.
Yes, golf views they're key. They're key.
So as people look forward to 2025 and the last 2 quarters of 2024, if they want to get started with 360 Blue, what's the right process? How can they get connected with you? Obviously, we'll have all the information below. But.
Absolutely. Reach out to management at 360 Blue or reach out to myself or any of my sales associates, and we'll get you a rental projection. We're happy to walk you through how we arrived at that rental projection, what comparable properties we used, And I think taking the approach of here's our data and here's how we arrived at this number will help your clients understand the true revenue potential of a property. We're not in the business of just how can I get your business and let me just put an inflated figure on a piece of paper to impress you, right? That's not doing anyone any favors. And it's not doing anyone any favors by just looking at it historically, because for the past 8 quarters, we've seen a declining market.
I think it's super interesting. I think from the real estate market, obviously we're seeing still a significant amount of supply. In the rental market, we're seeing a significant amount of supply.
Sure.
So I like, as much as we can do stuff like this and have a transparent game when it comes down to real estate and rental management, I think it's key for consumers as they look at 30A, Panama City Beach, and Destin. Get in contact with Alex, get in contact with 360 Blue. Again, transparency at the end of the day, using real data is going to be the most important thing for your investment. And we can't wait to see you at the beach soon.